Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're doing well. The operations room gave us the Philippine Sea, the Battle of the Philippine Sea, and we love that. So now, the Battle of Midway, which it is like the turning point, right, of the Pacific front between the Japanese and the Americans. So let's see what we got. Thank you for being here. Make sure to hit that like button. Let's go.
In June 1942, the war is going very well for the Empire of Japan. She has succeeded in her primary war objective, to secure the oil supplies of the Dutch East Indies, and has scored further territorial victories against the might of the British, US, Australian and Dutch forces in the West Pacific and Southeast Asia. However, knowing that the industrial power of the United States would outdo them in the end, the Japanese decide that they must deal a decisive blow to the remains of the US Pacific Fleet, specifically the aircraft carriers. The threat to Midway, a US Navy submarine mounting station for operations in the Pacific, would hopefully draw the US Pacific Fleet out of Pearl Harbor to fight, ending in its defeat. Japan hoped that with the combination of the loss of Midway, the threat to Hawaii that would come from the loss of its airfield and port, and the loss of their Pacific Fleet, the US would come to the negotiating table for peace. The carrier-borne Doolittle bombing raid on Tokyo in April further validated the need to destroy the US naval presence in the Pacific. On the 28th of May 1942, the largest assembly of naval vessels ever seen in the Pacific leave their bases across Japan and head east. Their commander, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, is confident of victory. However, little does he know that the US Navy Combat Intelligence Office in Hawaii has cracked the Japanese communications code and
Already
are broadly aware of their plans.
Wasn't that codename Magic?
US Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz has been alerted to the possible attack on Midway almost a month before the Japanese even set sail, and is assembling his defence. He deploys Task Forces 16 and 17, who under Admiral Halsey had executed the daring bombing raid on Tokyo a month before, to the northeast of Midway to lie in wait. Heavily damaged at the Battle of Coral Sea, the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown limps back to Pearl. She needs more than 2 weeks of repairs, which would put her out of action for the coming battle. But Nimitz is desperate for every carrier he can muster. 1,400 dockyard workers move into the ship en masse and labour around the clock. Miraculously, she is patched up to battle-ready condition and puts back to sea in just 72 hours.
That is crazy, but also very risky, it feels like, because the speed of which it was built. As the Amish say, if it's built fast, it falls down fast, so maybe the ingenuity of American engineering worked out there.
Yorktown sets sail with her escort fleet to meet with Task Forces 16 and 17. The US defensive Midway comprises 3 carriers carrying 233 aircraft, 8 cruisers, 15 destroyers, 16 submarines, and 127 land-based aircraft on Midway itself. The Japanese naval force heading towards Midway comprises 4 carriers, commanded by Vice Admiral Nagumo, 2 battleships, 7 cruisers, 14 destroyers, and 276 naval aircraft.
Very, very, very similar in size.
Near them sails a transport fleet carrying the amphibious troops that would take Midway. At just after 9 AM on the 3rd of June, a PBY recon aircraft spots approaching Japanese vessels and shadows them to provide a clearer report. It's only the troop transport fleet. Overnight into the 4th of June, PBYs and B-17 bombers attack the transport vessels, with 1 hit on an oiler. From 3 AM, more PBYs take off from Midway to search for the carrier fleet. At 4:30 AM, the Japanese first strike wave begin to launch into the night sky from carriers Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu and Soryu. First are the 36 Mitsubishi Zero fighters, providing air protection for the attacking force. Second come 36 Aichi Val dive bombers, followed by 36 heavier Nakajima Kate level bombers.
Yeah, that's crazy. They don't even know they're coming at this point.
A further 9 Zeros take off from Kaga to provide air cover to the fleet itself, and reconnaissance aircraft launch to conduct 300-mile search patterns. At 5:34 AM, a PBY reports sighting a carrier. The defending aircraft on Midway are ready to launch with engines started. Using cloud to evade anti-aircraft fire and Zeros, the PBYs report a further sighting at 5:52 of 2 carriers. Minutes later, Midway's radar station detects a large formation of incoming Japanese aircraft.
Dang, they almost got to jump on them again. Of course, they got to jump on them at Pearl Harbor. This is almost a jump.
At 93 miles and 11,000 feet. The air raid sirens wail into life, and Marine Buffalo and Wildcat fighters are scrambled to meet the raiding force of 108 aircraft.
Those are short and stout planes. I know that they had those.
Next up are the 16 Dauntless and 11 Vindicator dive bombers, followed by 6 Avenger torpedo bombers and 4 B-26 Marauders. Many of the aircraft launched are considered obsolete. The 37 bombers make course for the Japanese carrier group unescorted. The US fighters have gained height advantage over the incoming Japanese, and at 6:16 am dive on the bombers. The superior Zeros move in and engage the Buffaloes and Wildcats. During a confused few minutes of dogfighting, the Zeros maul the American fighters, shooting down 13 Buffaloes and 2 Wildcats. The Marine pilots have put up a gallant fight against hopeless odds, with Japanese reports later overestimating their numbers, but their obsolete aircraft are just no match for the Zeros. Nearly unscathed from the attack, the Japanese attack Midway. With a lack of aircraft targets on the ground, the level bombing Kates hit the island's oil tanks and the AA installations that are putting up a vicious wall of fire to meet them. The dive bombing Vals attack hangars, supporting installations and the powerhouse. The main hangar erupts in flame. Having dropped their fuel tanks, the Zeros conclude the attack with strafing runs on remaining AA weapons.
Basically, on MASH, AA, anti-air. He didn't say anything about casualties from Japan here, so wow, this like did it without any opposition.
13 minutes after the explosive attack began, the raiders withdraw. At 7 am, the Japanese raid commander sends a message back to the fleet that a second raid will be required to fully neutralise the base. They haven't disabled the runway, nor knocked out heavier defensive weaponry that would later be used on amphibious troops. Over at Task Forces 16 and 17, Admiral Fletcher orders USS Hornet and Enterprise to begin launching their air wings. This is much earlier than planned, but he is keen to hit the Japanese carriers at their most vulnerable point, just after the air wings have returned from their raid on Midway, and while they are refueling and rearming.
Yeah, they're distracted with that. They won't be ready for anti-air.
As only 2 of the 4 enemy carriers have been spotted, he holds launching Yorktown's air wing for another hour and a half. The B-26s and Avengers are the first to attack the Japanese carriers. Zeros fall on the Avengers as they brave the wall of AA fire to launch their torpedoes against Hiryu. They all miss owing to evasive manoeuvring by the carrier, and 5 of the 6 Avengers are destroyed.
Wow.
The 4 B-26s follow. One is shot down on its run-in, and another receives crippling AA damage.
This is insane. We did the Battle of the Philippine Sea, which comes much later, but this seems like the inverse of that. This is Japanese naval and air superiority at this point,
resorting to an attempted suicide attack on the Akagi. It narrowly misses the bridge containing the carrier group's commander Vice Admiral Nagumo, and crashes into the sea.
Wow. So those American instances of kamikaze? That.
2 torpedoes are released but miss, and the surviving 2 bombers make for home.
Whoa.
An ambiguous message comes into Nagumo from a recon plane that 10 US surface ships have been spotted north of Midway. While reflecting on what to do with this information, at 7:48 am the next US wave arrives. The Zeros tear into the 16 Dauntless dive bombers and shoot down 8 as they run in at a shallow angle towards the Hiryu. This unorthodox and inaccurate angle of attack is chosen because of the inexperienced pilots. All 8 remaining aircraft drop their bombs and miss.
Dang, they just can't hit their target.
15 B-17 heavy bombers that had earlier taken off to attack the transport force has been rerouted to join the attack on the carriers.
With no escorts?
And arrive at 8:10 am at 20,000 feet.
Whoa.
The carriers perform evasive maneuvers as the bombers release their ordnance. It is not surprising that all of the bombs dropped from such a high altitude miss.
That's just, but so much also due to luck because of the height, the maneuvering. You don't really know. It's not precise. These are just not like these aren't like guided bombs by any chance. They're just dropping from the sky. So a lot of luck also plays in a part here. So not a hit. That's insane.
Finally, the 11 Vindicators arrive and are greeted by another ferocious attack by the defending Zeros. The flight's commander decides not to press on towards the carriers, but instead to attack the nearby battleship Haruna. Again, all bombs miss for the loss of 3 Vindicators. As the Midway 1st Strike Wave aircraft begin to return to his carriers, Nagumo can't help but think that the morning action has been a clear victory for his forces.
Yeah, so far.
Morale in his fleet is high. They no longer fear the American attack because the raids so far have been weathered so easily with minimal damage sustained against their vessels. However, he's now received a more definite report from his recon planes. The report says that the US vessels spotted earlier are accompanied by a single carrier. He realises that this is his chance to inflict a decisive blow to the US Pacific Fleet that they desire, and orders his aircraft re-equipped with torpedoes and ship-strike bomb fuses. The fleet changes course towards the Americans. A single carrier should be a simple target to destroy. He needs 45 minutes to rearm and refuel his Midway strike aircraft. Little does Nagumo know, the air wings of Enterprise, Hornet and now Yorktown are approaching. Such was the need for urgency to launch the strike. Most US aircraft did not form up over the carriers, but headed straight out on takeoff. This has them spread out over a long line astern. A total of 156 aircraft from the 3 carriers, made up of 41 Devastator torpedo bombers, 89 Dauntless dive bombers, and 26 Wildcat fighters approach in piecemeal formations. First in line are Wildcats from Hornet and Dauntlesses from Hornet and Enterprise, but the unknown course change Nagumo ordered towards the Americans has rendered them unable to find the Japanese fleet.
That's insane.
These Hornets
that this limbo stage has now been created between these fighters and these that convoy of naval battleships and aircraft carriers. Now what will happen? Will they have to go back, or will they find them?
Hornet aircraft take no further part, but the Dauntlesses from Enterprise turn north in search. They still have a part to play. Next are the slow and lumbering Devastators. On a hunch, Hornet's 15 Devastators have preemptively turned north to search for the enemy, and the gamble has paid off. Knowing that their survival chances are slim, they bravely fly towards the Akagi as Zeros fall on them. 14 of the 15 aircraft are blown to pieces on the run-in by Zeros and AA fire. Only one Devastator makes it to drop its torpedo, which misses, before meeting the same fate as the others. An entire squadron shot down, with only one survivor. Almost immediately, 14 Devastators from Enterprise begin their attack.
That's 100% casualties of that group. That's crazy. Zeros are insane.
For some reason, they don't signal for their escorting Wildcats to drop from the clouds to protect them from the Zeros, and they start their run towards Kaga. A similarly brutal fate awaits them. 7 are cut to pieces by Zeros and Flak, before they make a last-second change to drop their torpedoes against Hiryu. Again, cruelly, all torpedoes miss. A further 3 Devastators are lost, and the remaining 4 leave the battle.
I mean, like, we got stormtrooper aim out here.
The Zero Force is running low on ammunition, and some are beginning to land to rearm when the Akagi spots yet another
which gives a chance now.
Raiding force. Yorktown's air wing has arrived in a coherent strike group of Dauntlesses, Devastators and Wildcat fighter cover. However, the Devastators find themselves isolated from the others when the group flies through heavy cloud. The Wildcats engage some Zeros at the start of their bomb run, but yet again they basically make their attack alone. They receive the same slaughter as the other squadrons, and only 2 of the 12 Devastators make it back, with no successful torpedo hit. The slaughter of the American airmen is not in vain, however. Every attack delays the Japanese ability to launch the counterattack strike against the US carrier group, and keeps the Zeros down at sea level. A much more lethal purpose is being served by their sacrifice. High above the now ammunition depleted Zero cover,
Dive bombers.
47 Dauntless dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown arrive above the clouds. By chance, the Dauntlesses from Enterprise that couldn't locate the carriers earlier have found them at the precise moment Yorktown's Dauntlesses arrive. All 47 aircraft scream in and release their munitions. Karga takes 4 direct bomb hits, killing the captain and setting off a chain reaction of explosions in the hangar among the armed and fueled strike aircraft. Soryu takes a similar punishment of 3 bomb hits, including to the hangar. Finally, the flagship Akagi takes a single bomb hit, with the same result that armed aircraft in her hangar detonate in a massive chain reaction. The 3 carriers burn ferociously and are consumed by uncontrollable fire. Eventually, all 3 crews will abandon and scuttle their ships. After the Americans withdraw
what a turn of events at the 11th hour.
To the northeast, the remaining Japanese carrier Hiryu launches 18 Val dive bombers and 6 Zeros to strike back at the Americans. Yorktown is recovering and refueling her aircraft as she detects the attack on radar. All fuel pumps to the deck are shut off and the fire suppression system readied. Wildcats from Yorktown engage and destroy
So that means like they know they're going to get impacted.
3 Zeros and 11 Vals. Of the 7 remaining bombers, 2 more are shot down by flak, but the remainder score 3 hits on Yorktown, starting a fire. Thanks to the preemptive fire control actions, the fire is manageable. No sooner is the fire contained, a second wave of aircraft approaches. This time 10 Kate torpedo bombers and 6 Zeros. Wildcats and flak account for some aircraft shot down, but the Yorktown is struck by 2 torpedoes. Yorktown remains afloat, but a burning wreck.
Wow.
In a final all-out attack on the final Japanese carrier, Hornet and Enterprise launch 42 Dauntlesses. Hiryu's dwindling fighter patrols are not the force they were earlier in the day, and shoot down only 2. There's no stopping the inevitable now. She takes 4 direct and fatal bomb hits. Her fate is sealed, and she will sink the following morning. 2 days later, destroyer USS Hammond is taking part in salvage efforts to save Yorktown. A Japanese submarine infiltrates the protective cordon and launches a deadly salvo of torpedoes against the 2 ships. They both sink. The battle is a clear victory for the Americans. In the 4 lost carriers, Japan has lost her most potent offensive force. Strategically, the desire to bring the US to the negotiating table has failed, and the industrial might of the United States will now be brought against Japan. The battle sees the loss of the offensive initiative for Japan.
That's insane. Like, maybe so their thoughts was like, if we were able to take this carrier group out, Yorktown and maybe the other 2, that would have crippled the American spirit to where they would have sued for peace. I don't know about that. But they would have had naval superiority of the Pacific. I know that. And they could encroach on Pearl Harbor at will, basically, at that point. Hawaii, at will. You could see a Japanese takeover of Hawaii. You could easily see that. And then you could see mainland United States being way more equipped with, like, carrier groups as a term of defense versus offensive. And then that could have led Australia to fall. Wow. Midway was very special. And if I said anything that doesn't make sense, let me know. Because usually I do. But thank you guys for watching. This has been an interesting video. I did not know much about Midway. Now I do. Until next time, peace out. Bye-bye.